After 12 years of supporting myself, my parents demanded I pay my sister's $40,000 debt. Then sent a lawyer to force me into family loyalty. Hello everyone, I've been around here for a while but have never really shared anything. I never imagined I'd have a reason to, but my family has officially pushed me to my limits. I need to know what others think. It seems like no matter what I do, I'm constantly portrayed as the evil person, and I'm exhausted. So this is what has been going on. I'm a 30-year-old male who has been living alone since the age of 18. When I say on my own, I mean it. Financially and emotionally, you name it. Let's just say my parents aren't exactly known for their parenting or sibling support skills. They were not the type of parents who would encourage you or make you feel unique. Instead, they had an unsaid code that guided my entire childhood. My younger sister Emma could do no wrong, and I was expected to be the responsible one. If Emma messed up, and believe me, she messed up a lot, it was brushed under the rug. She's just sensitive, my mother would explain. Or it may have been, she'll learn eventually, meaning, let's pretend this never happened and hope she figures it out. Meanwhile, every time I stumbled, it felt like the sky was collapsing. Why aren't you trying harder? You need to set a better example for your sister. No matter what I did, it was never enough. I could send home a report card full of A's, and they'd wonder why I didn't get an A+ in math. What about Emma? She barely passed, saying, "At least you're doing your best, sweetie." That dynamic persisted even after we reached adulthood. If anything, things grew worse. Emma lived with my parents until she was in her mid-20s, hopping from one failing job to the next, always finding an explanation for why it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, I was working 2 part-time jobs to pay for education and figuring out how to manage my own rent and bills. They never offered to help me, not that I expected them to, but it hurt to see them go above and above for Emma while I was left to fend for myself. Anyway, 6 months ago my mother called me. Now please understand that my mother does not call merely to speak. She does not call to check in or say hello. She calls because she needs something. You know the type of call I'm talking about, one that begins with overly nice small talk as if they're attempting to warm you up before revealing the true reason they're calling. That's exactly what occurred. She began by asking, "How's work? Are you still at that company? Have you been eating well?" It was so out of character that I sensed something was up. My mother doesn't care how I eat. She doesn't know what I do for a living besides something with computers. The entire conversation felt forced, as if she was trying too hard to sound casual. Then she told me Emma was in trouble. I was not surprised. Emma always seemed to be in trouble. But I didn't expect this. Emma had apparently accumulated $40,000 in debt, and it was not the type of debt that can be dismissed as young foolishness, such as college loans or maxed-out credit cards. No. She had borrowed from some pretty dubious people, and they were now serious about getting their money back. My mother's voice cracked as if she were going to cry, which I'm sure she hoped would make me give in. She wasted no time pouring on the guilt. "You've done so well for yourself. You've always been the strong one. Emma's not like you. She needs your help." I sat there for a bit, trying to understand what she had said. $40,000. How does someone even manage to rack up that kind of debt? I asked her how it happened, partly anticipating some ludicrous explanation, and my mother dismissed it. "That doesn't matter right now," she responded, as if I was fixated on the wrong issue. "What matters is that she's your sister. Family helps family." For years they've used the adage, "family helps family," as an excuse. It's what they said whenever they needed me to fix something for Emma, cover for her, or clean up the mess she had made. And every time I swallowed my rage and did what they requested because I didn't want to be the villain. But this? $40,000? I could not do it. Not this time. I told her no. Straight up. I replied, "I'm sorry, but I can't bail Emma out of a mess she created." And with that, the tone of the conversation changed. My mother went from pitiful to pissed in about 2 seconds flat. "You're being selfish," she yelled. "You're abandoning your family when they need you most." She even said, "Do you want her blood on your hands?" As if Emma's horrible life decisions were somehow my fault. At this point, I hung up. I couldn't listen to it any longer. My hands shook and my chest tightened, but I knew I'd made the correct decision. I've worked too hard to let someone else's terrible decisions bring me down. Still, the remorse set in almost instantly. My family has a habit of twisting things to make me feel like the evil guy, and this time was no exception. Even though I answered no, I couldn't shake the thought that I could have made the wrong decision. Standing up to my family felt right at the time, but now I'm left wondering whether I've just made things worse. What if they are right? What if I am being selfish? And to be honest, I'm still not sure what's next. That call was only the beginning, and what happened next threw me completely off guard. I have a feeling this isn't over, but I'll keep you updated as events unfold. I will provide an update soon. Update 1. Hello everyone. So I thought things could calm down for a moment. Maybe she would stew for a time before letting it go. It turns out I was way off. The drama escalated quickly, and I wasn't prepared for it. It's been a complete disaster, and I'm still figuring out how to cope with it. Let me break it down. Things deteriorated when I hung up with my mother. I knew she wouldn't let it go, but I wasn't expecting the level of guilt-tripping and pestering that ensued. My phone was continuously blowing up. First, it was my mother with texts like, "We raised you better than this," and "You'll regret turning your back on your family." My father then spoke up despite his habit of remaining silent. His messages were brief and direct, such as, "You're better than this," or "Do the right thing." What about Emma? Oh, Emma went all out. She sent me a lengthy, whiny text about how her life was falling apart and how she did not deserve to be abandoned. She used phrases such as, "I've always looked up to you, and now you're just leaving me to suffer. And you're rich. It's not like $40,000 would even make a dent for you." That made me giggle. Rich? Just because I don't live paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean I have a lot of money. The arrogance in her tone was astonishing. I did not respond to any of them. I figured if I ignored it, they'd realize I wasn't going to budge and leave it go. A few days later, I received a call from my aunt. She's one of the few family members with whom I get along, so I picked up. She sounded embarrassed, as if she did not want to make the call but felt had to. She claimed that my mother had been telling everyone in the family that I was refusing to help Emma and letting her sink. Emma's life, according to my mother, was in jeopardy, and all I could do was stand by and watch. My aunt did not trust anything I told her, but she wanted to hear my side of the story. I detailed the entire situation, including how Emma got herself in this predicament, and wanted me to suddenly cure it. My aunt was astonished but supportive. She told me I wasn't wrong to say no, and Emma should face the consequences of her actions. Hearing that helped slightly, but the harm had already been done. My mother had circulated the story far and wide, distorting it so that I appeared to be the villain. I began receiving texts from cousins, uncles, and even a few old family friends. The majority of them were unclear, such as, "You should really think about what family means," or "You'll regret this one day." Some were downright cruel. One of my relatives accused me of being selfish and behaved as if I was too wonderful for the family. I ignored them all, but the relentless barrage became taxing. The situation then escalated. One afternoon, my bank called me. I initially believed it was a hoax because who genuinely receives calls from their bank? However, the man on the phone indicated that someone had attempted to access my accounts using false information. They reported it as suspicious because the documents did not match, and thankfully, nothing was taken. I quickly recognized who was behind Emma. It had to be her. She was desperate, and if she was prepared to involve the entire family, why wouldn't she try to steal from me? I called the bank for more information, but all they could tell me was that my accounts had been temporarily closed as a precaution. I thanked them and hung up, enraged. This wasn't simply about guilt trips or emotional manipulation anymore. This was criminal. I need answers, so I am thinking of contacting Emma personally. What would you do if you were in my position? Thank you for sticking around. I will keep you updated. Update 2. Hello again, everyone. Have you been waiting for the confrontation news? Sorry for being late, but here's how it went. When I arrived at Emma's place later that evening, I was still angry over my decision to face her. I hadn't told her I was coming, and I wasn't sure what I would say. All I knew was that I needed to face her in the eyes and hear her confess what she had done. Perhaps a part of me hoped she'd deny it to give me cause to believe my sister wasn't the kind to fall that low. When she opened the door, she was surprised to see me, but not in the, "What are you doing here?" kind. It seemed as if she had expected me to show up eventually. She was wearing sweatpants and her hair looked like she had just rolled out of bed. Not that I cared about her beauty, but it contributed to the whole feeling of, I don't have my life together. "What are you doing here?" she questioned, leaning against the doorframe as if it were a casual visit. I didn't even attempt to ease into it. "Did you try to steal from me?" I said, holding out my phone with the bank alert, still shown on the screen. My voice was definitely louder than necessary, but I couldn't help it. I was pissed. Her expression froze for a while, and I thought, maybe she'll lie. Maybe she'll try to deny it. But no. Instead, she shrugged her eyes as if I was exaggerating and said, "Oh, come on. You weren't going to help me. So what choice did I have?" What options did she have? I glanced at her, perplexed. "Do you even hear yourself? You tried to steal from me because I wouldn't bail you out of your own mess? That's not just wrong, Emma, that's illegal." She shrugged, like if we were talking about borrowing a sweater or something. "Mom and Dad said you'd come around eventually," she explained, crossing her arms. "They told me to push you harder, bet you'd cave if I made it serious enough." I couldn't believe what I heard. "You've got to be kidding me," I told you. "They encouraged you to do this? To commit fraud? Do you even realize how insane that sounds?" "They didn't tell me to commit fraud," she admitted. "They just said you wouldn't let me sink if you thought I was really in trouble. And guess what? I am in trouble. I don't have anyone else to turn to." I was so enraged that I couldn't think clearly. "You don't have anyone else to turn to because you've burned every bridge you've ever had," I gasped. "This isn't just about the money, Emma. It's about the fact that you've never taken responsibility for anything in your life, and now you're dragging me into your mess because you're too selfish to deal with the consequences of your own actions." She did not even flinch. "You're being dramatic," she said to me, waving me away. "It's not like I actually got anything from you. The bank stopped it, didn't they? So what's the big deal?" "What's the big deal?" I corrected myself. "The big deal is that you tried. The big deal is that you thought you had the right to steal from me just because you're too lazy to clean up your own mess. And the even bigger deal is that Mom and Dad think this is okay." That finally seems to get under her skin. Her face contorted into a mix of fury and shame. Instead than apologizing, she doubled down. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she quipped. "Just because you have a fancy job and a dumb house, you think you can sit there and judge me. Well, big brother, you wouldn't be where you are without Mom and Dad. They gave everything for us, and this is how you thank them?" I laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant laugh. It was the type of laugh that comes from being so frustrated that you don't know what else to do. "Mom and Dad didn't make any sacrifices for me," I answered. "I started paying rent when I was 18. I put myself through college. Every sacrifice was made for you, Emma. They offered you everything on a silver platter, whereas I was left to find things out for myself. So don't even try to pull the family loyalty card on me." She didn't have an answer to that, or maybe she did, but she didn't say it out loud. Instead, she simply stood there, gazing at me as if I was the evil guy in this whole thing. I could not handle it anymore. "Do you know what?" I said, stepping back toward the door. "I'm done. I am done with you, Mom and Dad, and the entire toxic family dynamic. Do you want to wreck your life? Fine. But you're not dragging me down with you." I left before she could say anything further. On the way home, my fists gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles became white. I was angry, yes, but I was also hurt, not just by Emma, but also by my parents. How could they think this was acceptable? How could they justify pushing her to do anything like this? When I came home, I sat down and wrote a list of everything I needed to do to protect myself. I phoned my bank to double-check that my accounts were secure. I changed all of my passwords, and I even called a lawyer buddy to see what my options were if Emma did something similar again. He said I could press charges if I wanted, but I wasn't ready yet. That night, I couldn't sleep, because I kept repeating the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it better. But deep down, I knew that no matter what I said or did, Emma wouldn't change, and as long as my parents enabled her, she wouldn't have to. After the confrontation with Emma, I believed things couldn't get any worse. How much lower could they sink? It turns out that I misjudged my family's ability to make bad situations worse. About a week later, my parents came up to my house with no call or contact, simply standing on my porch as if they owned the place. I considered not answering the door, but I knew they'd keep ringing it until I gave in and opened it. My mother didn't even greet me. She pushed past me as if she had a right to be there, her face hot with rage. My father followed her inside, looking uncomfortable but clearly there to support her. I shut the door, took a deep breath, and prepared myself. "This has gone far enough," my mom yelled, swinging around to face me. "We need to talk." I crossed my arms. "I think we've already said everything that needs to be said." "No, we haven't," she responded. "You should stop this nonsense and help your sister. She is family. She is your responsibility." I glanced at her, stunned. What is my responsibility? Emma is a grown adult who got herself into this problem. I continued, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm not her mom, and I'm definitely not her ATM. My mother's face contorted with frustration. "Do you think we enjoy asking you for help? Do you believe this is easy for us? This is about familial loyalty. You don't just leave your family when things are rough." I laughed bitterly. "Do you mean the commitment you showed when you charged me rent when I was 18? Or when you forced me to pay for my own college while Emma had everything handed to her? Or how about when you kept allowing her to make mistakes and expecting me to repair them?" "Yes. No thanks." My father finally spoke up, his voice low and serious. "Do you believe we have had an easy life? Raising 2 children and trying to give you both the best we could? We made so many sacrifices for you." "Stop," I interrupted him. "Just stop. Every sacrifice you made was for Emma. Every time something went wrong, you went out of your way to fix it for her, leaving me to fend for myself. And you know what? That is okay. I don't need your assistance, and I never have. But don't stand here lecturing me on loyalty when you've been allowing her horrible conduct for years." My mother's face grew blazing red, and I knew she was about to lose it. "If you don't help her, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life," she growled. "Do you want her to end up on the street? Do you want her blood on your hands?" And it was the same guilt trip she attempted to perform on the phone call. I could feel my blood boiling. I just didn't comprehend their rationale. "I'm not responsible for what happens to Emma," I said. "She made her own decisions. If she ends up on the streets, it's her fault and yours since you never taught her to be accountable for her actions." My mother was virtually shivering with wrath by this point. "Fine," she told me. "If this is the kind of person you want to be, don't expect us to be there for you when you need us." I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. "I've never needed you," I answered coldly. "And after this, I never will." For a minute, the room was dead silent. My father appeared to want to say something, but he didn't, and my mother simply stared at me, her chest heaving as if she were going to explode. Then, without saying anything more, she rushed out. My father followed her, but he lingered at the door to give me one last look, a mix of disappointment and something else I couldn't quite name. Perhaps regret. Then he departed too. As soon as the door closed behind them, I felt an immense sense of relief. I didn't care about their approbation, their guilt trips, or their toxic concept of family devotion. I was done. Of course they weren't. The next day, my mother sent me an email. It was long and rambling, full of the typical guilt-tripping gibberish. She accused me of being ungrateful and unkind, of abandoning my family in their time of need, and of breaking her heart. She even intimated that she and my father would cut me out of their will, as if to intimidate me into submission. I did not answer. What was the point? Then Emma began up again, sending me a theatrical text about how she was losing everything, and how it was all my fault. She said she had to sell her car, was behind on rent, and was being harassed by her creditors. Honestly, I didn't feel bad. She dug her own hole and now had to deal with the consequences. A few days later, I received a letter, not from my family but from a lawyer. My parents threatened to sue me, claiming that I had a moral obligation to support Emma and had irreparably harmed the family by refusing to help. It was pretty funny. I emailed the letter to my own lawyer, who informed me it was pure crap. They didn't have a leg to stand on, and nothing would come of it. Yet, the fact that they even tried was enough for me. I was done with Emma, my parents, and the unhealthy family dynamic. I blocked their numbers, removed them from social media, and informed the few relatives I still interacted with that I didn't want to hear anything about my parents or Emma. The majority of them understood, but a few tried to persuade me to find a way to make peace, which I quickly rejected. Peace was impossible with folks who considered me as nothing more than a safety net for Emma's poor choices. Here's where I'm at right now. I'm miserable. Do you think it's usual for a family to go this far? Final update. Hello again. I decided to post a last update once I worked everything out, so here we go. After throwing that lawyer's letter in the trash and mailing it to my lawyer just in case, I finally made a decision that had been weighing on me for years. I was going no contact, completely and permanently. I'd been holding out hope that my family would change, but the lawyer stunt proved that they weren't going to stop. If anything, they were escalating their destructive behavior, and I wasn't going to allow them pull me deeper into their insanity. So I went into full block mode, blocking my mother, father, Emma, and everyone else's phone numbers and emails. Honestly, pushing the block button felt strangely satisfying. Then I went through my social media accounts and deleted them as well. There was no way I was leaving any doors open for them to sneak back in. I sent a fast text to the few family members I truly like, largely cousins, informing them that I was finished with the family drama and requesting them not to play messenger for anyone. Most of them were fine with it, but a handful hit me with the "but they're your family" guilt trip. My response is short and sweet. Being family doesn't mean you get to treat me like crap. The most difficult part was presenting the issue to a few mutual acquaintances who knew my parents. Some of them couldn't believe what I was saying, as if they couldn't believe that my parents and sister had attempted to steal from me, guilt me, and now sue me. One buddy even inquired, "Are you certain there isn't more to the story?" As if I had somehow overlooked the bit where this was entirely my fault. I felt terrible, but I let it go. The ones who mattered believed me, and that was enough. The first week of no communication was difficult, not because I missed them, but because they refused to let up easily. Despite having their numbers blocked, they found ways to get through. My mother began phoning from unknown numbers and leaving long, dramatic voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. She would say things like, "We just want to talk," or "You're punishing us for trying to do the right thing." It was exhausting. I didn't listen to the majority of the messages and deleted them as soon as I recognized who they were from. Then there came the letters. My parents must have gone directly from their lawyer's office to the post office, because the letters began arriving almost immediately. At first, they were basically rubbish, with my mother penning pages upon pages about how much she sacrificed for me and how I broke her heart. My father also responded, albeit in a more direct manner. One of his letters read, "If you don't help Emma, don't expect us to ever forgive you." Forgive me for what exactly? For not allowing my sister to steal from me? For not enabling her terrible choices? The sheer arrogance of it was almost comical. By the second week, their communications had gone entirely off track. My mother's letters were frantic and deranged, with vague threats such as, "You'll regret this one day," and "You'll be sorry when it's too late." It was all guilt and doom, like if she was trying to terrify me back in line. My father, however, did not hold back. His emails were caustic, accusing me of being selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant. He said that I had forgotten where I came from and was betraying the people who made you who you are. It wasn't simply guilt, it felt like they were attempting to break me down, as if they couldn't bear losing their hold on me. And then there was Emma, who wasted no time playing the victim. She sent me this long, handwritten letter, most likely because she knew I had banned her emails, telling me how much I had hurt her and how she couldn't believe I would forsake her in her time of need. She wrote stuff like this: "You have always been my rock, and now you are simply leaving me to sink. I thought you cared about me, but obviously I was mistaken. I could not believe her audacity. She closed the letter by asking for money again, this time for a $5,000 loan to help her get back on her feet. She even offered to repay me as soon as circumstances were better. I laughed so hard I almost cried, as if I was going to fall for it after everything she had done. However, my mother went completely insane when she showed up to my office. Yes, she showed up to my workplace unexpectedly. She stormed into the lobby demanding to see me, and when the receptionist refused to move, she lost control. She began yelling loudly enough for the entire building to hear, calling me a terrible son, and screaming about how I was ruining the family. Security had to intervene and physically escort her out. I stood there, utterly frozen, witnessing the whole incident from the mezzanine. My coworkers didn't say anything, but their expressions were pure horror. I wished the dirt would swallow me entirely. That was it. I wasn't just angry. I was done. That night, I phoned a family law attorney, not the acquaintance I'd casually consulted before, but a true professional. I lay out everything: harassment, entitlement, and lunacy. She listened, asked a few pointed questions, and then told me exactly what to do. The next day, we created a cease and desist letter and sent it to everyone, including my mom, dad, Emma, and their lawyer. It was absolutely clear. Contact me again, and I will take legal action, no exceptions. I didn't think they'd stop, but surprisingly, it worked. My mother's calls stopped, and the hateful letters were gone. Even Emma, the queen of guilt trips, went radio silence. 6 months after cutting ties, life is different, quieter, lighter, and honestly, better. It wasn't easy, but putting myself first over my family's incessant chaos was the best decision I've ever made. Of course, not everyone understands, and a few relatives continue to use the same outdated line. But they're your family. Do you know what I say to that? Family is nothing if they don't respect you. Blood does not give someone the right to disrupt your calm. You do not owe somebody your time, money, or sanity simply because you share DNA. Boundaries are not harsh. They are necessary. Honestly, cutting them off was the best thing I've ever done. With the turmoil behind me, I pushed myself into work and finally received the promotion I had been wanting for years. Emma, from what I've heard, is still struggling. She works part-time and lives with a friend after losing her apartment. I don't feel bad about it anymore. She made her bed. My parents continue to share their story with anyone who will listen, but fewer people are buying it these days. It's liberating not to care. I've also started reconnecting with others I'd lost touch with, including a few cousins, and I've even opened up to someone I'm currently dating. They've been quite supportive, and for the first time, I feel as if I'm surrounded by people who genuinely respect me. To anyone dealing with a toxic family, I understand how difficult it is, but things get better. Cutting them off felt like ripping off a Band-Aid, but the peace that followed was well worth the anguish. You owe it to yourself to choose peace and yourself.